If you're someone that's not looking for this stuff, you're not gonna see it. This is something only a director of photography would notice. For me, I notice it and it hurts my soul.
The Obsessive DP.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Obsessive DP. I'm Ryan. This is the show where we go over high-level industry grade production value, tips, tricks, lighting diagrams, lensing, camera, anything cinematography or DP related. That's what we touch on, and that's what you learn. Today, we're going over something that I think is pretty relevant. Pretty relevant because most DPs, most directors, most TV shows, most movies has some sort of a kitchen scene, right? It's very common. It's the best way to show off a family unit, you know, show where someone came from, show someone's upbringing, show someone's current situation in their home. It's very eye-opening to the audience, and it tells us a lot about our characters, where they live, how they live, and the kitchen is kind of a central part of the home. So there's two different situations here where we lit them. These are both commercials. They're not moody, they're not dramatic, but they still look really good, and I think you can learn a lot from these two examples. So diving into the first one, oh my goodness gracious, here it is. It is just a mom talking to the camera. It's it's very old school kind of cinematography, nothing fancy, just some kids grabbing their lunch and walking away, and that's it. But I think the lighting looks pretty good. We used two M18s for this shot. I'll show you where they are on a diagram in a second. And then we had a backlight here, obviously. All right, so we flip to the wide. This is our shot. Actually, all these downlights from under the cabinets are manicured. This home did have their own downlights under these cabinets here and here, but we actually added our own because they were off color. They're hard to dim, but when you're using your own LEDs bicolor that are under your cabinets that you install yourself, you have a lot more control. You can dim them, you can change the color temp, you can diffuse them easier. It's just set up better for a cinematographer versus using house lights. So you can actually see on this Apple, we have a decently hard shadow. This was actually thrown together really fast. This shoot was thrown together maybe 1 or 2 prep days, but I mean, we probably had like 3 or 4 days in advance where we actually knew we were shooting it. It wasn't a lot of time. You can see this harsh shadow that I don't think looks great. As far as just like checking out the scene, I like these cabinet lights. I think they're nice. We actually used those Light Gear string lights under there. They're like little pack, they're like this big, and you can kind of put one here and then add a string and then put one here, add another wire, put one here. And so that's what we did. We put it all throughout the cabinets, hid the wires obviously so they were out of frame when we plugged them in. I actually probably would do these days. These guys are great. Little aperture MCs. Amazing. You have control from your phone. They have magnets. They're super small. They would still fit under a cabinet, and that's what I would use today, but those didn't exist back then. And then we have our backlight. This was a little bit of an extreme move with this backlight. I mean, here it doesn't look natural at all. You kind of look at that and go, what is that? It's just like this crazy light source. This is actually the light source here, but we turned it off. This is some crazy light source above the window. But when you go into the tight, I think it actually looks really good here. It actually works. It feels like possibly just this window is giving us a nice glare, or it's like a window above there that you can't see. Maybe that has the sun streaking through. But the fact that we're a little tighter now makes it play a lot more natural. Cool, this frame's great. The diagram's super easy. It's just a M18 bouncing into, well, actually what we used was a bed sheet because we only had time to do one pickup, and the pickup we were going to didn't have any ultra bounces. And we spread out the bed sheet as much as we could. This totally works. It's obviously not an ultra bounce. It's not as easy to angle it or set it or have it stay the same throughout the day because anyone can kind of hit a bed sheet and it might move a little bit or ruffle because it doesn't have a nice frame. But it totally works. It looks great. It looks like a window, like a super strong window as the kids run by. The shadow runs across the scene. Totally works. Her backlight was from the opposite side. We had an M18 just outside of the window, just out of frame, so you couldn't see it through the window. And that gave her just an edge, and it kind of lit the kitchen naturally. Because when you're looking at a kitchen, you want to think what is natural. You want to think, let's motivate the light from where the sun could be. Let's pick the best place the most appealing place that the sun could be, and let's put our light there. Let's make our own sun. And that's what we usually do when we're shooting day interiors with windows in the shot. And then our key was a fake, we could fake it as a window on the other side, bringing in some nice light. And then we had a fill. It was just like an S30 that we had on the other side that just filled her. We didn't need much of it because the M18 bouncing indoors was super rappy. It was kind of a small space to use an M18, but totally worked. And then the backlight was just a little guy, a Philips. What's lighting me right now, and that was just placed right above that window to give her just a really good edge, and then a little glare in the camera, which looked nice. Let's move on to the next situation. The next one's a little bit different and a lot more recent. All right, here's the final result. This is where it lives within the video. So here it is right here. We're in the kitchen. So that was our kitchen scene. Now let's go. We actually had a different, here's the different angle of the kitchen. And it's just looking the opposite way. This is into the living room. And then this is my favorite shot right here. And I'll tell you why in just a little bit. But this shot actually ended up being the hero shot of the day. And there's a reason why, and maybe you can figure out that reason. We'll go over it in just a few minutes. So let's go to that first angle. So the first angle here, we had a Joker 800 piping through this window here. You can't really see the window, but there is a window right over here. Lighting him here, lighting our couple as well. I really think it looks good, looks natural, looks like just warm sunlight coming through. What's interesting about this window, the other window in frame is actually the sun and our own light. So it's hard to tell, but here, this is our aperture, this is our own light, but then down here you get this much harder light, and that's actually the sun. So the sun wasn't actually hitting this part, so we made our own, and we ran out of room. We were full stick on this aperture, but still you can see the angle is wrong. This is probably only something a seasoned DP would see, or a cinematographer that's really looking for this kind of stuff. But look at the angle of this light. That's our aperture. That's our own production light. This is the sun. Totally different angle. One's doing this, one's doing this. But if you sit back and squint, or if you're someone that's not looking for this stuff, you're not gonna see it. This is something only a director of photography would notice. For me, I notice it and it hurts my soul, but we ran out of stick on our stand. That was the highest that stand could go. So that's what we got. Here's a quick behind the scenes little look through here. So here's that same angle. We're gonna look out to where the Joker 800 is. See, there it is. It's actually giving us nice shadows on our fruit here. You can actually see it in the final spot. Here we've got a kitchen setup. We got our S30 here. Boom. And that is lighting this area. We've got our Joker 800 right here. Hello, Joker 800. Right there outside the window. That's gonna come through here, streak this whole area, boom. And then we've got our aperture 300D also coming through, making this nice light. Ooh, on the window, from the window. Cool, so let's go into the overhead diagram for this. So we actually had our Joker, like I said, right outside that window, giving the installer, it was a kitchen appliance. The installer had basically a 3/4 backlight with that Joker 800 streaking through that window, streaking over the fruit, and then also it was side lighting our characters, our male and our female. And then to key them, we had that S30 that you saw in the video, and that was shooting through 251, a frame of 251, so it softened it up, made it look really nice. And then just our light through the other window, our fake sun was the aperture 300. So that was it for that scene. It was a pretty quick setup. And then for this other shot, I'm gonna show you my favorite shot. And let's talk about this one a little bit more in depth, because this looks better, right, than the other scene. And I'm gonna tell you why. Our Joker 800 is now here. It's actually a little bit in frame. The director and I talked about it, and it's like, it kind of looks fake. You can kind of see the barn doors. But 99.9% of the people won't notice, and that was just where we thought it looked best to get it out of frame. It stopped playing on our scene, and then we ran out of sticks, so it couldn't go any higher. That's as high as it could go. But look what it's doing here on his arm, on his hand. It looks great. Her hand, it's not really playing on her because he's blocking her, but the Joker looks great. But what is really keying them and really blooming them out, it's that same setup. It's the SkyPanel S30 shooting into a Lee 251, but it's on the far side of the camera, right? We're shooting into the downside of the face. That's why this face looks better. That's why this face looks better than the other setup. The other setup, we were not shooting into the downside of the face, so we had more of a light side where our camera was shooting into and a dark side here, so we really didn't get that just Rembrandt beautiful feel as we get here. This is a better light. That's it. Those are our kitchen setups. Let me know if you have any questions or if you have any input on how to make these better or how you've done a kitchen setup better. Catch us next time. Subscribe. Stay obsessed.